Nous sommes en guerre. Toute l'action du gouvernement et du parti.
France is burning. The fire is fueled by people's growing anger. Yesterday, the protest took a violent turn. It was the 9th day of strikes across the country, but the first of coordinated action. Workers staged a nationwide protest. More than 1 million people took to the streets. This is according to the government. Unions claim the number was much higher, 3.5 million. Soon, people's fury caused flare-ups. Protesters clashed with the police. They set fires, launched smoke bombs, and damaged property. The entrance of the Bordeaux City Hall was set ablaze. Flights were disrupted, and airport terminals blocked. Trains were cancelled, and electricity output was cut. Tear gas and water cannons were used to disperse the crowds. In total, at least 450 people were arrested. 123 police officers were injured. What's behind this public anger? The proposed pension reform. It aims to increase the retirement age from 62 to 64. It's been a very unpopular proposal from the very beginning. But the French president, Emmanuel Macron, remains defiant. He rammed the legislation through the assembly last week, and his recent interview was the last straw, perhaps. He defended the reform. He said it would be implemented this year.
More we wait, the worse it will get. And so, this reform is necessary. I say this to the French people. I do not enjoy this. I would have preferred not to do this. But it's because of a sense of responsibility. And I express my commitment in front of you.
It may be his sense of responsibility, but as of today, people hold him responsible for the chaos. They're calling him stubborn. They say he wants to keep the retirement system financed at their cost. But Macron is not backing down, and neither are the protesters. They've planned another round of strikes for next Tuesday. Why Tuesday? Because France was supposed to get a high-profile guest on that day, Britain's King Charles. He was due to visit Bordeaux, making it his first foreign state visit, as a monarch. But he has cancelled the trip today, and it's not shocking. People were not thrilled about the visit. There were calls to cancel it. They refused to roll out the red carpet for the king. And we mean it literally. Union workers snubbed the king. They refused to provide red carpets, flags, and furniture for his reception. Well, King Charles has always had bad timing. He's probably used to it. But the Macron government may not be able to sustain it beyond a point. Why are they so adamant about the pension reform? You see, the French pension system is generous. It's a point of pride for them. But there's a problem. The French spend more time in retirement than they spend working, meaning an average adult's life has more years of retirement than work, at least as compared to their European peers. And this leads to increased public debt because your pension bill is very high. An aging population only makes it worse. And France already has one of the highest public debts in Europe. So in the long run, they do need a pension reform. But right now, the French economy is under no immediate threat. Now, let's say the retirement age is increased to 64. It will still be one of the lowest in the industrialized world, and 64 is the average global retirement age. So what explains all the fuss over it? Why are the French so angry? They say the reform is unfair. It hits the poor and the low-skilled workers. They start working earlier in life. Their life expectancy has increased. In France, it is 85 years for women, 79 years for men, but mortality numbers differ among classes. For instance, nurses live 7 years less than other women. Blue-collar workers live 6 years less than executives. Only 40% of the poorest survive till the age of 80, but among the wealthy, 75% of the people live till 80. Women's pension is 40% lower than men's. They say working longer adds insult to injury. The protesters also say that Macron has disregarded other proposed solutions, like taxing the wealthy or taxing companies.
I have the feeling that the country is facing a general despondency and that this pension reform symbolizes the population's general bitterness, a denial of democracy of which we all are victims, in fact.
I gave up part of my salary and went part-time to be able to enjoy my retirement life. This is not justified.
Et demain, c'est reconduit.
We will go again tomorrow. We will repeat this blockade to show the government.
Montrer au gouvernement.
It scares me for my parents. I know that my mother works in emergency medical services. She puts in 48 to 60-hour weeks, 12-hour shifts, night and day. She comes home, she is completely worn out. She is 56 years old. I don't want her to work until she is 64.
This is why 70% of the French are against the reform. About 67% disapprove of President Macron. And he's aware of all of this. Macron says, and I quote, "It is in the greater interest of the country. Between opinion polls and the national interest, I chose national interest." While that may be true, the ultimate choice always rests with the people. They can hurt his ballot. This protest is the longest opposition movement since he came to power. In fact, things are so bad for him that guess who's trolling him? Iran. Their foreign ministry has urged France to listen to protesters and avoid violence. A textbook example of the pot calling the kettle black. But for Macron, it's a big test. As he tries to save the economy, will he end up losing his own job?